go make sure I got my slides ready. Welcome to our webinar. My name's Jason Johnson. Excited to be back on the mic for another webinar. It's been a minute. We did one, I think it's been about a month, and love it. Last time we did one, we highlighted just an exceptional county in California, Tulare County. Our friends there highlighted some of the work that they're doing to teach resilience. Today, I'm super excited. We are going to explore and share with you a model and approach that has been really helpful for me personally as a practitioner, and I think has been helpful for a lot of people towards teaching resilience with some intentionality and really connecting it with student challenges. So, oh, hi, David. David from Australia, one of our longtime friends. Got a shout out, David. David gets up early and love it when you show up. So that's what we're going to cover today. A couple of notes before I introduce my co-panelists today. We are on a webinar link, which means as panelists, we're the only ones, the two panelists that we have are the only ones with microphones and cameras on. And so we can't see you, we can't hear you. We're going to lean on the chat as our primary means for interaction. One thing that would be helpful, if you're willing, is open up your chat tool, and right above where you would type in a message, it says to, and then there's a little drop down menu. And if that does not say to everyone, then when you type in your message, only the panelists can see it. So if you're willing, adjust that so it says to everyone. That'll make it so that everybody can see your comments. And honestly, the comment section of these is really fun. It's a really fun place where ideas can be exchanged. People can ask questions we can respond to sometimes. So make that adjustment so you're sharing comments with everyone. And then after you've made that adjustment, type into the chat an emoji that describes how you are feeling at this point in the school year so far. We're right before the holidays. There's a lot of energy that is built up. Type in your emoji representing how you're feeling at this point in the year. We've got oh, it's all the laugh is a laugh of empathy and understanding, and the acknowledgement that sometimes the only thing we can do is laugh at what's happening. And so it's I love it. We've got all the emotions covered. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the chat adjustment. It's always a fun integral part of these. Let me introduce our topic, and then I will formally introduce myself and my co-panelists for this. Today we are going to be addressing building student resilience using strategies for addressing school challenges. And it's a topic I'm very passionate about. And I'm so excited to share the mic and the camera with somebody that I have had the fortune of working with as an education colleague, as well as professionally now, working for the same organization. So I've got with me Mike Yantis. Mike was the district social worker at Bismarck Public Schools in North Dakota. He's been a social worker for 28 years. He's been employed with the Bismarck Public Schools for the past 15. For the first 13, he was at a school level providing social work support to students, families, school teams, and then currently works with us here at YTRI, and has helped us really lead out in training, creating YTRI training opportunities and training individuals on how to teach the skills of resilience at a really incredible way. And I've just always been so impressed at everything you do. Mike's a consummate professional, but he's also got a real practical approach to social work, and is just an incredible advocate for students. So Mike, welcome, and thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Thanks for that kind introduction. And yes, we have we've worked together for quite a long time now. It's been nice to kind of work with supporting kids, and yes, I've been a school social worker at all levels and had the opportunity to kind of help kids and help the district develop some systems of support. So it's been a great adventure, and I was able to retire from that adventure and be able to move on into continuing that work at a different level with Y Tribe.
I love it. And before Mike retired, the way I got to know Mike is I was the one helping Mike set up trainings up in North Dakota and then going up and doing some of them for him. And so it was fun. So my name's Jason Johnson. I currently represent the Y-Tri organization. Prior to working for the Y-Tri organization, I worked as a school psychologist in the state of Utah. Worked for the largest school district in our state. It's called Alpine School District, and was fortunate enough to work in elementary, middle, high school settings, trauma units, emotional disturbed units, everything in between, and absolutely loved it. And then for the last about 9 years, I've been the director of training and research for the Y-Tri organization, and get to go throughout the country and really share my passion for this topic of resilience. And it's just awesome to be able to connect, whether it virtually or in person, with so many of you around this shared passion of trying to help students increase their resilience. So that's how we're going to approach it today. What I want to do, I want to start off. Let's just kick things off. I want to present to you kind of the basis of our approach. I'm going to give you a simple kind of 3-step approach to how we deliver resilience. I'm going to have Mike talk in a little more detail, but before we do that, I want to give you the basis for our approach to resilience. Out of curiosity, just to make sure we're on a common page around this, type into the chat, what's the first word or phrase that comes to your mind when you hear the word resilience? Toughness, nice. Courage, bouncing back, ability, strength, grit, endurance. Yeah, these are all key pieces. And I love asking this question because it forces us to participate in an exercise that I think is really important when it comes to teaching resilience. The better understanding we have of the ingredients of resilience, then the better equipped we are, I think, to teach it. Sometimes we talk about resilience and it's taken on this really large cultural position where it can mean so many things. Like I could watch Monday Night Football and I'll hear one of the announcers talk about how resilient one of the athletes is. I could go into a school settings and hear about the need for resilience. And it's this very transcendent and important concept, but sometimes the big picture view of it makes it a little more difficult to dig into some of the specifics. So what I want to present to you, just to help you out, is kind of our practical, simplified approach to teaching the skills of resilience. And there's 3 key elements to it that we follow, and anybody can apply these regardless of what resources you're using. But the three key elements towards teaching the skills of resilience are as follows. Number 1, you have to know what your key concepts or those skills of resilience are. And so breaking it down, when I ask, first word or phrase, that's the first step towards breaking resilience down towards its key ingredients. I'm going to share with you, we've done a lot of digging and research into this. We've broken resilience down into 10 key skills of resilience. So I want to share that list with you first. So I'll give a quick overview of that. So the 10 key skills of resilience that we've identified are as follows. Improved decision-making. Resilient individuals are typically good decision makers. Positive self-image. Resilient individuals typically have a strong, positive, or confident sense of self. They see value in themselves. Emotional regulation. Resilient individuals typically have the capacity to regulate their emotions, or at least regulate their response to emotions. Having a resilient mindset, this skill of resilient involves how we view challenges. If you think about, I want everybody to think just in your mind right now, think about the most resilient person you've ever known. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a colleague, coworker, but whoever the most resilient person you know is, how did they view their challenges? And you can respond in the chat if you want to share, I don't mind. But think about the most resilient people you've known and how did they view their challenges? You know, when I think about resilient people I've known, the way that they viewed challenges sometimes is different than how I catch myself viewing them sometimes. They typically see challenges as an obstacle, a temporary obstacle, or an opportunity, as was put in the chat, something that perhaps I can learn from or that I can navigate, or something that may be temporary. Sometimes it may be pain, as was mentioned, but they have the capacity to channel that pain towards certain outcomes or towards motivation to not give up. So having a resilient mindset is kind of our perspective towards our challenges. It involves how we view our challenges. And oftentimes that's one of the big difference makers between how likely we might be to give up or to keep putting effort into something. Peer influence. Nice, David. Exactly. That growth mindset's a huge part of it. Peer influence in relationships is a skill of resilience. How we connect to others, how we find positive support through others, as opposed to connecting with people that might present us with negative peer pressure and try to influence us to do unhealthy things. Our connection to others is a huge indicator of our resilience. Problem solving. Resilient individuals are typically good problem solvers. Hard work and determination. Can I put sustained effort into something all the way through to completion is a key skill of resilience. Yeah, Michael, it will be. Responsibility and expectations. Do I understand how to navigate the rules that are presented around me? Can I meet responsibility and expectations that are expected of me? That's a key skill of resilience. And then there we go. Can I find positive humans that I can connect with and draw strength from other positive people that make me stronger and more resilient, more resistant towards challenges and adversity? And then lastly, self-efficacy, this concept of having confidence that I can influence my outcomes is kind of the measure of self-efficacy. And that's probably the most common typical language that's used to describe like a key ingredient of resilience. But the first step towards really teaching and building resilience in individuals is being able to break resilience down to these key pieces. Great addition, Barbara. That ability to ask for help, self-advocacy, right, is a key piece. And so that's step one. Know your concepts, have a clear idea of what your skills of resilience are. Step number two that we like to follow is to use a visual approach. And that's where we take pictures and use them as kind of discussion objects, and we connect our pictures to our key concepts or skills of resilience, and then in turn, connect those directly to our student challenges. So Mike's going to share a couple of examples here in a little bit of how he's done this, but just a quick overview. Here's some of the pictures that we've created over the years and kind of their coinciding skill of resilience. So we use these images, these roller coaster based images, to lead discussions and connect to the concept of improved decision making. We might take these images, things like balloons to identify current emotional state, a video game controller to discuss who's controlling how we respond to things, or a knight's armor, and connect that to emotional regulation. We might take, I'm going through some of these kind of quickly. We might take something like these images of completing a puzzle or crossing a finish line or climbing a mountain and use it as a way to facilitate a discussion around hard work and determination and task completion, that type of thing. And so we connect these visual images to our key concept, and then in turn connect it over to our student challenges, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then the third step in this model is we always want to make it engaging, which probably seems the most intuitive in there, but it's a key piece. It helps make the learning a little bit more experiential. So we try to use activities to supplement our discussion, media clips, etc. So at its core, that three-step approach is really the basis of my constant approach to teaching skills of resilience to any age level students that I'm working with, whether it's elementary, secondary, etc. Now, to just show kind of a live demonstration of how we can kind of connect these dots, and then I'm going to throw it over to Mike because he's got some great experience with this as well. But out of curiosity, part of the purpose of this is to really try to address student challenges. Type into the chat, what are some of the most common student challenges that you're currently facing right now? Like based on this school year and the most recent school years, what are some of the significant student challenges that you're currently dealing with? Okay, so trauma, attendance, commitment, defiance, emotional regulation. Sometimes the challenge is also one of the skills we're trying to teach, right? Oppositional defiance, lack of family support. Probably the big one there that's coming up is attendance. I think I
See that
saw,
quite a bit.
yeah, what was that, Mike?
I see attendance quite a bit coming through,
Yeah,
but some great
attendance is
challenges.
huge. And we see that throughout the country. Bullying, mental health challenges. Another one that comes up often is like substance abuse. So what I'll do then when I'm approaching any student challenge is I will start off by considering my skills of resilience. And it allows me to really take kind of a skills-based approach to addressing this. So if my challenge is attendance, which I think was the most common response in our informal poll that we just took, attendance in many cases may be a function of several of these. First and foremost, it's almost always going to be connected to decision making. The not attending school in many cases is a result of decision making. So that's certainly going to be one of the things that I'm going to be addressing. Hard work and determination can be a big skill that connects to school attendance. Having a resilient mindset. Oftentimes it may be influenced by the peers that are around them. So it may be something where I'm looking at peer influence and relationships. Believe it or not, that's one oftentimes where positive self-image can come into play. A lot of our kiddos have negative labels. They don't believe they're good students. They don't believe that they're liked by their teachers or whatever other ideas they may have. And so I start to try to connect these skills of resilience directly to the challenge that I'm facing. Even something like substance abuse, I can take the same approach. In a substance abuse situation, I will likely dig into improved decision-making, peer influence and relationships, and then, mix in one or two. But it allows me to really dial into the skills that I want to teach to help directly address that challenge that we're looking at. So I want to throw it over to Mike now. One of the things that I love about what I get to do is I get to learn from educators literally in all 50 states, and those that have been trained by me or have met me, over the years know I love to ask for stories. I love asking people to just tell me what it is they're doing. Tell me about your successes. And I've always been impressed by some of the things Mike's shared with me. Mike, I was hoping that today you would be willing to share a little bit and draw on your experience, and maybe show us how you have kind of applied this model and taken this approach to addressing specific student challenges and what that's looked like if you're willing to share.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I always love watching you on webinars. It's exciting to be a part of this today and to get to share. And I just want to echo what you said about kind of that opportunity to talk and learn from people really every day. And I really enjoyed that as part of kind of my new role in being in meeting with school districts, asking them about their challenges or organizations that work with kids, whatever it is. I learn every day from people what they're doing, how they're meeting the challenges. And then we talk about kind of where the gaps and how we can fill that. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is share a little bit of my experiences in these challenges. It's interesting to see how quickly those challenges come out. I think we see them so often in what we do, and so as a school social worker would always have kind of that situation where I'm not quite sure of what challenge I'm going to have to meet next, right? The ask from me may come from an administrator in saying, hey, I'm seeing an issue. It might come from a student assistance team that's looking at data and saying, how do we meet the challenge that we're seeing here? It might come from if I'm supporting a student in special education and looking at their assessments and how we can support and meet challenges that they may be facing. And so it really does come down to, for me, it was always about teaching kids skills, right? It's about if we can teach them skills, just like Jason talked about, it's not so much will, it's skill. Kids do the best they can with what they have. And if I'm in a position where I need to teach a skill, I want to make sure or meet a challenge, I want to make sure that I can help them do that in a way that moves them forward and down the track. So I want to use just an example. I'm going to share a couple of examples, um, kind of depending on time, how many I go through. But I really have the first example. Attendance came up as a huge challenge. And that really is one of the big three that we look at for our data, right? Attendance, behavior, and academics. So it's always something that I think, especially always since COVID, right? We've hoped that that's come back and it really, it hasn't. I mean, I think a lot of districts are looking at that, but I want to bring it down to a level of one student, one experience that I had with a student that was dealing with attendance as a challenge. And so I'm going to go ahead and use the visual metaphor because that's what I used to help teach the skill. Again, following that model of most of the kids I work with are visual learners. I want to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that's going to connect with them, and also be able to handle, like, be engaging. And so use those multiple ways of kind of engaging them in learning. I don't want them just to kind of hear what I say, walk out of my office, and not change, right? Just be kind enough to me to say what they think I want to hear and leave. That's really not helping anybody. So I'm gonna pull up. I'm just gonna share my screen really quick here, and I'm gonna choose if it's attendance. I want to look at that skill of decision making, improved decision making. And so with this particular student, let's do this. All right. So are we seeing?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, just the slide, just the one slide. We're good?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. All right. So this is the visual, and I've got it in a slideshow so I can kind of add as I walk through it. But this student I actually had met in early elementary, and they were seeing some issues with academic and learning, and so I had reached out to his mother just to see about coming to the school and having a meeting and talk about it. My experience with her was that she just said, "Listen, I've had very bad experiences in school. You don't need to do anything for my child because he's not going to graduate." And so that's the message that he had. And we were able to kind of work through some things and begin to do some interventions. But however, I saw him again when he got up to high school. And it was the same kind of referral. Say, hey, will you talk to the student? He's just not coming to school. And nothing we can do is getting him to come. And so I met with him again and had a chance to talk with him a little bit about what's going on. And I wanted to structure that conversation around a vehicle that could help me teach him the skill of improved decision making. And so what I used is this metaphor of this roller coaster metaphor. And when I laid it out, I said, hey, tell me what do you see of this picture? And just kind of got his general overview. Asked him a little bit about, have you ever been on a roller coaster? Just build a little rapport and gain some interest. And then what I want to do is move into, as I walk through this, is as I teach, I want to walk through the metaphor and use that as a tool to teach. So I start with talking about this word reality and getting just a definition of reality, maybe a sense of what his reality is, and moving into what are his goals. I'm looking at having him think a little bit about kind of where he's at now and where he wants to be. And the thing is, as he talked about his goal, I'm good with accepting any goal. His goal was to be a professional video game designer, right? And at the time, I don't think there was so many of the gaming esports opportunities. It was more kind of writing the games and being a part that way. But that was really a goal. And my only rule as I walk, whether it's individually or small groups, is that the goal needs to be a positive one, right? It can't hurt yourself or others. Other than that, there's no judgment, right? This is really dream. What do you want? Where do you want to be? And so again, I'm moving them along in that conversation as we walk through this. And then what I want to kind of focus to is I turn back to the metaphor. I would say, okay, this roller coaster on this car, there's letters on the wheels, and they mean homeschool and peers. And the wheels on the roller coaster really are how it moves forward and moves through life. So as you kind of are moving through life, or you've been moving through life, you move in homeschool and peers. Those are your three kind of places that you are. Those are the three biggest areas of your life. And wanting to kind of talk about what, oh, did I lose my screen here?
Yeah, it's not shared right now.
Sorry, guys. I don't know. It just went away on me. Let's try this again. But really talking about how we move through um, homeschool and life and what challenges. Let me try this. I'm not sure why it went back. I apologize. This is one of my toughest areas for some reason. I can run through it and it doesn't
It's
seem
the
to be.
this is a live experiment of resilience. Mike, do you want
It
me to
is
share
totally
do you want me to
push through.
share the slide from mine?
Let me um, let me just escape out here. Give me 1 minute. I just want to do this
Yep.
once and try it one more time. All right, let's go back to where we were.
Yeah, it's back. I can see it.
Apologize for that. I'm
You're
not
good.
sure why it did that, but let's just walk through. So as we're talking through the kind of what's going on, we experienced challenges, and so especially with him in particular, I wanted to talk about. Tell me what your challenges are. If I have a group, I might just say generally challenges, and even just to be as non like threatening or invasive right away as we're kind of walking through, I'll say, what kind of challenges do kids face? What do you see with your friends? And we talk through those areas at home. They could talk about, he'll talk about the fact that there's not a lot of resources at home. At school, he talked about how he really is behind in school just because he's missed so much. He's worried about now that we're kind of moving into high school credits. With peers, feeling of isolation, having missed school and not being engaged and really being isolated was kind of those areas of kind of the challenges that he was facing. And then we talked about things that can get you in trouble. Sometimes as we're facing challenges, we can do things that get us into trouble. And in this case, it really was working with him on um, just that whole truancy, skipping school. That's the first thing that came to mind that he said that's what I'm getting in trouble for. And I, we talk about, is it fun skipping school? Is there and he said, yeah, I can avoid everything, right? I'm not having to deal with any of those challenges in school. And the idea of is kind of that high of skipping school. Ultimately, we talk about then what's the reality? Everything that goes up comes down. What's the reality of that? And he said the reality of the consequences. And for him, he talked about the consequences for him that was the biggest was not even so much the ones he was experiencing. He felt like it's hurting my mom. She's the one who's getting the calls from the school. It stresses her out. She has anxiety over this whole thing. That was one of the consequences that he saw. The other consequences he kind of listed as not being, again, kind of going back to not being engaged, not having friends, really not seeing any kind of a future. And those kind of consequences, when we look at that, really, we talk about the feelings and how does that make you feel? And it's that frustration, that anger, kind of the worry about that. And so as we're walking through this, I can step back here and say, okay, so really it's kind of like a loop. You're making that decision not to come to school. It might work that morning, and then you have the reality of the consequence of the crash that goes with it. And so it's an opportunity for me to say then, all right, let's talk about this next track. And let's talk about that harder but worth it track. And how can we be, if you, and the nice thing about decisions is you get to start over every day. Like our lives are made up of all the decisions we've made up to this point, and we get to make new decisions every day. And kind of introducing that concept of if that reality isn't giving you that question of are these things giving you lasting opportunity, freedom, and self-respect? Instead of defining it as, is it success, right? I can ask him if it's working for him by posing that question of those three things. And it creates a great discussion. It creates what I'm looking for in within him is that paradigm shift, that shift of view of like how I'm going to evaluate my decisions and what I'm going to look for. And the nice thing about this discussion, it isn't me telling him, hey, you need to be in school. It's him evaluating that decision that day to day. And then we can talk about kind of what that's like. And adding what that's like is again being able to say, what would change then at homeschool? If you started coming, what would be different? How would that be different? What supports do you need to be able to make those decisions on a regular basis, right? Because when you start to make that change, there's going to be barriers, there's going to be problems, there's things that obviously help kind of initiate the behavior in the first place. Let's work on how we can help support. But it's keeping your eye and looking at the two tracks. Really, if you continue to make the easy, fast decisions, it's that being in that loop and crashing. And you can see on here that actually the track that goes higher, the track that breaks off into other opportunities is that harder but worth it track. So it gives me an opportunity that I could have that discussion with him. And I have this right on my desk. I hand it to him. We walk through, he writes right on it. I'm going to say, take it out. Sometimes he hung on to it actually, but sometimes students will throw it away. But I give him another one when we come back. But it also gives me a way to kind of have a language to take this abstract concept of making improved decision making and make it easy for them to understand and easy for them to learn. Now, with this, I'm also going to incorporate those other kind of learning techniques. So when we got back together again, I could share and say, here's a short video about kind of some decision-making process as you're working through this. Like we've got an activity we can do. I've got some things I want you to write. Here's a journal. I want you to write on it. Let's talk about this. So it gave me a way it's not just him listening to me talk, we're interacting and I'm making it relevant and workable for him. And so ultimately, that's just one example of how we take the challenge of attendance. And again, attendance can have multiple root causes, but we can take that and really say, we're going to build the skill I built the skill of decision, worked on him building that skill of decision making and using the metaphors to be able to have that discussion making process to go through it. So ultimately, that's one example that we have. So
I
I'm going
love
to
it.
jump. Yeah, thank you, Jason. I'm going to, and I can't see the chat now, so if there's anything that comes up, let me know.
Yep.
Just kind of the way my screen is. But so I want to grab another challenge too, and I'm going to use another metaphor that we have climbing out. And so this challenge really was peer pressure, peer influences, and and so I don't know. A lot of times we would have like groups of students that might come through that are awesome individually, but when they're together in the classroom, they would just play off of each other, and it would be very difficult situation for learning of others and for teacher to be able to manage that classroom. And so this was an example where there was a small group of about 8 students that we were looking at in teaching skills, and this was dealing with peer pressure. And so I wanted to teach them the skill of understanding, identifying peer pressure, and being able to handle that, and have a plan of what to do and to really avoid those negative situations. And so the lesson, and by the way, we worked on decision making, woven some of the other skills with it too. And this particular day, we were doing this lesson. I'd started with really this visual, again, giving them an easy way to understand kind of the concepts I'm talking about, but showing essentially this overall concept of crabs in a pot. Now, I'm from the Midwest, and so I needed to understand that if you leave crabs in a pot and you even start cooking it, they're not going to climb out because they pull each other in. right? Everyone who's on the coast kind of gets that. I needed to learn that concept. So I want to make sure and kind of share that concept as I go over this. I talk about kind of what that looks like. I might show a video of crabs in a pot to them. So on this particular day, I walked through this and said, hey, this is what it is. Then we could begin um, moving through I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion on what kind of a pot you see other kids in, right? This is a group, so I wanted to be non-threatening. And I said, tell me about that. And they talk about, the whole thing of, vaping or shoplifting or, cutting class or being disrespectful and all those kind of things that they kind of were influencing each other in those areas to do. And then I thought, okay, so if you're when you're in trouble, it's moving to that next step of kind of bringing it home to that student and saying, so are you keeping yourself in or others in, kind of walking through and having that discussion, and then being able to say, um, how do positive friends affect me, right? So I want to build that concept of what peer pressure is. So I'm not just giving them a definition. I want to show it to them. And this particular day, I showed a video. For time, I won't show the video, but it's just a short video that outlines a classroom of students where all the students are expected to answer a question and they're expected to answer it incorrectly. You add one student in that doesn't know that, and you have all the other students in the room answer incorrectly, and you see how often that one student just answers incorrectly to be a part of the group. And so this video kind of showed that, and they saw that the students all answered incorrectly. And then the next part of the video is where you add another student in that group that's going to answer it correctly. And with just one student standing out and answering it correctly, we saw then almost all of the students that were unaware and just following the group change and go ahead and answer it correctly. So it gives, and when I showed that video, then it just creates a flurry of discussion and questions and man, and you know what? I think they do that with advertising, or we have, so it becomes to bring that whole concept of peer pressure into a reality for them, and so it's part of that interactive and walking it through. And so once we get there, I say, okay, so we talked about the pot that you're in or pot that your friend's in. Who wants to help you out? We're going to talk about networking, how we can do social networks, how we can build support systems to be able to do that. If you're not wanting to change, why would you stay in this? What are your reasons for? I'm afraid. I don't know what's next. I don't know what it'd be like if I got out of the pot. The next one might be is that whole kind of let's look at what's going to happen if we don't change. What are some possibilities? And that's great discussion points. And again, kind of bringing in some of those um, supplemental activities or videos to kind of work through, even as we're just walking through this metaphor together. And again, looking at for reasons to get out of the pot. So why would you get in? Why would you want to get out? And then talking about what your future looks like when you get out. And ultimately, to me, this number 10 is kind of the key point that I really want to hit on is what tools can you use to get out? Let's come out with a plan, right? Because we've kind of walked through, and for the most part, students at this point say, yeah, you know what? I think I need to make a change, but I don't know how to do it. And a point that's really important as we talk about peer pressure and handling peer pressure is to know when you begin to make a change, that's going to make your current friend group around you very uncomfortable, and they're going to push back. And so we can talk through that a little bit. And I share this example, not just so much like this group. It was great discussion. We were able to follow, we dug in deeper, and we met over the next few weeks to help it really teach that skill. And with that skill, there was benefits, right? We saw the change in behavior. But during this particular group, I had one student that was new to our school, and I hadn't had a chance to really talk with her before the group. I said, just kind of just enjoy the lesson. That's a nice thing about teaching skills. It's not you're just teaching a skill, right? They can jump in. You can have it be open and have people kind of join as you do it. So we went through the lesson, and then I joined with her afterwards to talk through like, okay, what did you think? I want to explain a little bit of kind of what we're doing here. And she just broke down in tears and said, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what, did we say something? What was wrong? And she just said, if I wish I would have known this a month ago, because she went on to explain that she was on her way to a court hearing for a long-term placement because of a crime she had been a part of, and really described that as I got caught up in a group and I didn't know how to get out of it. And even down to describing like when they had, it was vandalism, pretty significant. And just as we started, it was all the pressure to have me start with that. And then once I was in, I wanted to run and I didn't know how. And really just explaining that. And then just for me, it just hit home. It was just a call to action to say, we've got to get these skills out from pre-K up to high school on a regular basis to kids so that we don't have those situations. They don't feel like they're in situations. And I know every night there's kids that go to bed that are struggling with situations that just don't have the skill to make a difference. So I'll stop there. Jason, are we good on time? Is that
Yeah, we're great on time. If you have anything else you want to share, you're welcome to.
I you know what? I think I'll go a little further if you'll indulge me a little bit.
Please do.
I have. So I want to share an example of teaching a skill of problem solving to meet the challenge of engagement, right? So I can't tell you how often I hear engagement as an issue as I'm talking with professionals and practitioners across the country. But I'll go back a few years and I had, as a school social worker, had just presented a training to the all staff at a high school on trauma and understanding how trauma impacts relationships and behavior and learning and what we can do in an academic environment to be trauma informed, right? Just to understand that. And after the uh, the discussion or the presentation, I had two very excellent math teachers approach me and say, "Listen, we have a large kind of math class, block class that of students to help get them get ready. This is freshmen, help them get ready for those basic math skills. And what we're seeing though is it's not so much their ability to learn math or to be it's there's so many other issues that are causing them to not engage. So we're spending most of our time trying to get them working. And so ultimately what we did was I had them trained in this model so that we could do this together as a team. We had a specialist from the education department join us as well, trained her in it. And as a team, because this was a large class, as a team, we provided these lessons together. And specifically when we got to jumping hurdle, which is really a problem solving model, right? And the idea of this is we're talking about identifying what that problem is and deciding if that problem is solvable, coming up with a plan, possible solutions of how we're going to solve that problem. And I'm just kind of clicking through here just to pull up kind of the steps that we do. But as we walk through this with the students, what we noticed was, I'm just going to stop for a second here because I'm not really doing the walkthrough, but number 5, believe in change. It was amazing how many students look at that and they just feel like it's not solvable. Whatever's going on, I'm powerless to do that. But if we can give them this model to be able to follow, to help identify that, let's figure out some options, get some help to be able to do that and take action. And you know what? If it doesn't work, just like jumping hurdles, we're going to try again, right? We're going to keep trying. And that's part of that model of learning that we're going to keep doing this. As we went through this skill, teaching the skill of problem solving, for me, what was really awesome to see was they began applying it to the actual math problems and how they were approaching math problems. And the math teacher said, this aligns perfectly with us. They're excellent teachers, can teach math, but taking this and using this as their cues and prompts as they're working through teaching those lessons with those students was a great way because they began teaching that whole, not just the math concepts, but how to solve problems in math. And we can take that same model and solve problems, other problems in life as well. So, all right, Jason, when
Mike,
I
I love it.
when I start talking,
No, I'm so fired up because you described so nicely, like, I think one of the real challenges and one of the things we all want to try to figure out how to do is kind of bridge that gap. And I think that's why taking a skills-based approach is so significant because then it allows you and a math teacher to take the same skill, problem solving, combined with the skill of kind of tenacity, not giving up, trying again, getting back up if I try again. And I'm going to apply that to problems I'm experiencing in life. But a math teacher can also very effectively say, I'm going to apply that to solving difficult math problems. And, ultimately, we all have enough belief in this system that we believe this is designed to prepare us to enter and prepare young people to enter the grown-up world. And so the better we can help them see how to apply these things to all areas of life, the better off we're at. Mike, you've got a request to put the hurdle diagram back up.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
And so I love how the examples illustrate that. So while you're putting that up, I'm going to open up another table I like to use and allow you into my school psychologist brain. Laura, hopefully that helps. And we've recorded this. If you want to go back and review it, you'll be able to. And then Laura, also, we're going to put up our email addresses at the end. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. So Mike,
You need the screen?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Do that. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to jump back over to kind of where we started. And so, we've made our list, and I don't think we're suggesting by any means that this is a complete list. But this is a great starting point of 10 really important skills of resilience. If this is helpful, please screen grab it, take a picture, copy these down. These are a really useful way to approach teaching resilience. You may be interested in adding some of your own to it. That's wonderful as well. Let me show you what I've done. This is my school psychologist brain that loves lists and tables. Here's how I've organized it. I've taken student challenges and thrown them into a table and then connected them to key concepts that I want to teach and key skills that I want to teach. And by taking that skills-based approach, breaking it down into skills, it's made it much easier for me to connect directly to student challenges that may be happening, that may be occurring. And so I think one of the key pieces here, it's one of those terms that I think runs the risk of becoming overused to the term of eliciting eye rolls, but I'm going to use it anyway. Intentionality really is key here. And we can talk resilience. It's a big picture idea, and I can sit down and instruct you and say, I need you to be more resilient. And then what? Then what is the question? But if we can be really intentional in aligning our skills with our challenges, and then infuse a visual approach, an interactive approach, it really is. It's magic. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to deliver this to so many students and adults as well. And the model is really effective. Even thinking back to the webinar we had last month, for those that were on that, we had Tulare County on in California, and they've just been a real model of everything really focused on teaching the skills of resilience. And they have everything, from their grant writing down to their delivery aligned with specific student challenges. And it's all designed to meet those challenges. And this model's been really important, I think, for helping them as well. And so they have areas where they're focusing on substance abuse. They have areas where they're focusing on attendance. And being able to align those is just a really, really nice way to do it. So I love it. Mike, you were very generous in sharing your experience, gave us really wonderful walkthroughs, and I really appreciate it. I think our time is just about up. I think we covered what we wanted to cover. Mike, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I don't. Just thank you, Jason, for having me on today. And thank you for the awesome music, by the way. I always, if you notice, I love your choice in music as we start.
It's one of those things that I'm particularly proud of, but isn't always appreciated.
well, I,
I'm
I
gonna put up,
appreciate it.
yeah. So a couple of you have asked. I'm gonna put up a QR code, and we're happy to share some sample resources if any of you want some. I hope having some clarity on this model is helpful for you. And then also, I'm going to put up our email addresses. And if you have any questions on it, please reach out to us, and we would love to hear from you. There we go. So if you'll hit that QR code, we will share some of the resources with you. Some of you may be interested in some of those visuals. We have, I think, some of those in a sample plan that we can share with you. If you have any questions about the model or those skills of resilience or any of the tables that I shared, reach out. I'm more than happy to share with you. I think Mike and I both have the common goal. We just want every educator in the country to feel supported and feel like they have access to good support, both in understanding models and approaches, and then hopefully have resources at their disposal as well to be able to deliver these to these students that need it so bad. And just want to conclude by thanking all of you for showing up. Really appreciate you continuing to show up, continuing to be an example to us, and thanks for sharing your stories with us. Hope you all have a great holiday couple months here. This is an interesting time in education, and please, hope you feel supported. We're going to try to sneak one or two more of these in before the end of the year. We've got a couple of people throughout the country that I think I'm going to be able to get on to share some of theirs. Otherwise, thanks for being great. You all are awesome for attending. Thanks, Mike, for being a great co-panelist on here. Go have a great afternoon, everybody. I'm going to play us out with some music now.